You're scrolling through your phone at 11 p.m., and someone in your group chat posts a screenshot, up 40% on some stock they bought 3 weeks ago. Then someone else chimes in with a crypto trade that basically paid for their vacation. And you're sitting there with your $8,000 in a high-yield savings account earning 4.5%, and suddenly that feels embarrassing, boring, almost like you're not even really investing. Like everyone else is playing the real game and you're just parked on the sidelines collecting pocket change. So you start wondering if you should move that money somewhere more exciting before you miss out on real gains. Here's the thing nobody tells you about your first year of investing. The 4.5% you're earning right now isn't the consolation prize. For a lot of new investors, it's actually the number to beat. And most people don't. My name is Davis. If you've ever felt behind because your money is just sitting in a savings account, hit subscribe. Because today I'm going to show you why a boring 4.5% savings account can outperform 90% of first-year investors, and why that has almost nothing to do with the stock market and everything to do with behavior. Let's start with the real problem, because it's not what people assume. Most people think the competition is between a savings account and the stock market. Savings account, 4.5%. Stock market, historically, around 10% a year on average. By that logic, the stock market should crush savings every single time. But here's what most people don't realize. The real competition isn't between a savings account and the stock market. It's between a savings account and how people actually behave once real money and real emotions are involved. There's a well-documented gap between what the market returns and what actual investors earn, called the behavior gap. In one widely cited study from Dalbar, the average equity investor returned about 16.5% in a year when the S&P 500 itself returned over 25%. That's not a small gap. That's almost 9 percentage points of return lost. Not to fees, not to bad luck, but to investor behavior. Buying at the top out of excitement, selling at the bottom out of fear. Jumping between strategies because something else looked more exciting that week. And here's the part that matters most for this conversation. That behavior gap is almost always worst in year one, when you have the least experience, the least emotional control, and the strongest urge to react to every headline and every group chat screenshot. Let's do the actual math, because this is where it gets real. Imagine two new investors. Investor A puts $8,000 into a high-yield savings account, earning a guaranteed 4.5%. After 1 year, that's $360 in interest. No drama, no decisions, done. Investor B puts $8,000 into individual stocks and crypto, chasing the exciting plays their friends are talking about. The market that year happens to return a solid 12%. On paper, Investor B should be way ahead. But Investor B panics during a 15% dip 3 months in, sells at a loss to protect what's left, misses the recovery because they're too scared to get back in, and chases a different hot stock instead. By the end of the year, instead of that theoretical 12% gain, Investor B is actually down 3%, not because the market failed them, but because their own behavior did. Investor A with the boring account ends the year up $360. Investor B ends the year down roughly $240. Same starting amount, same year. Completely opposite outcomes, and the difference has nothing to do with which asset class was better. Here's why this matters more than people realize. A guaranteed 4.5% you actually keep beats a theoretical 12% you panic your way out of every single time. Guaranteed and boring isn't the consolation prize for people who couldn't handle real investing. It's often the smarter starting move, specifically because your first year is when you have the least practice controlling your emotions around money. Let me be clear, this isn't an argument against ever investing in the market. It's an argument about sequencing. Here's the framework. Start with a high-yield savings account for your first chunk of investable money, the money beyond your emergency fund. This does 3 things at once. It earns a solid, guaranteed return while you're learning. It builds the habit of consistently setting money aside, and it protects you from making expensive emotional mistakes while your investing instincts are still untrained. Second, once you've built that habit and that guaranteed cushion, move into broad, low-cost index funds. Index funds remove the temptation to pick individual winners and losers, which is exactly the kind of decision-making that fuels the behavior gap in the first place. You're not trying to beat the market. You're trying to capture it calmly over time. Third, only consider individual stocks or more volatile assets like crypto once you've actually experienced a real market drop without panicking. Not a hypothetical drop, an actual one, where your money visibly went down and you didn't touch it. That experience is worth more than any amount of research because it proves you can handle the emotional side, not just the math side. Here's the identity shift underneath all of this. Your first year of investing isn't about maximizing returns. It's about not losing to yourself. Most people obsess over which asset will perform best, but the data is pretty clear that the biggest threat to most new investors isn't picking the wrong stock. It's picking the right stock and then panic selling it anyway. A boring 4.5% account can't panic sell. It can't chase hype. It can't get emotional. It just sits there, quietly outperforming a huge share of first-year investors who technically had access to better returns but couldn't hold on to them. So here's your action step. If you're new to investing or if you've tried before and it went badly because you panicked during a dip, stop feeling behind for having money in a high-yield savings account. Use this year to build the habit, earn a solid guaranteed return, and get comfortable with the discipline side of money before you add market volatility into the mix. If this changed how you think about boring returns, hit subscribe and let me know in the comments. Have you ever panic sold an investment and wished you hadn't?